Hey, besties. Let's throw some shade, honey. You ready to get into it? Say what now, Teresa? It's a what? An Just not almond. Almond? Amen. Or omen. Eman? Omen? It's a y'all. And now we see why she's been stressed out, honey. That 400K came out of her pockets, honey. Not his, not the lobster. Oh, goodness. And John Fuda, I'm going to need you to stop resisting medical help. When you sitting there, can't breathe, can't feel, the room is probably spinning, look like you started sweating. You're older now. Let the people call the ambulance for you, okay? They're trying to save your life. And did anybody call Rachel? We never did see. Did anybody give Rachel a call? We didn't see Rachel no more since the beginning of this episode. And another thing, John, you came to the party with the pajamas on making fun of Louis. And that was your karma that spent the block on you that quick. You got to be careful teasing things and people and stuff. And it was cute, but that karma came back on your butt. Yes, it did. What am I talking about? Hey, besties. This is Behind the Shade. Let's get into another episode of Real Housewives of New Jersey, season 14, episode 12. Don't try this at home. Now we got to give some praise and some props to little Miss Beanie. She had a successful surgery with her tongue and all that inside her mouth. And now she is talking and standing up on her own. But baby, at the end, was little Miss Mama's twerking? Did she bend over a little bit and started twerking her little self? Child, these kids, these pandemic babies, honey. So anyway, we're over at Jen Aiden's house. And so she's telling Bill how the party went at Rachel's and how she just ignored Danielle. And she didn't even mention the falling off of the cake. She didn't mention that part where she was teased on the cake. Why you leave that out? So anyway, she told him that she was having fun. And so they started talking about sex and what they would do in between times, her and Bill, what she would do with him in between times. And he's like, oh God. And so I peeped that. I'm like, oh, you be jacking. Okay. And then she started talking about milking the prostate. And at first I didn't get it when they first said it. And it was just like, oh. And then I think I did catch on. And I think I kind of forgot that I had caught on last week. And then I was like, oh, how gross. And that's why Bill covered up his ear. He was like, I don't want to hear no more. She was even grossing him out. So I don't know. Is Jen milking his prostate? I'm not sure. But if she's done it, she probably won't be able to do it again. Bill ain't here for that. So then he gets a text from Joe Gorga, and Joe is inviting the guys over to his house for guys' night. Everybody but Louis the Lobster. And so Bill noticed that Louis wasn't on the text, so he told Joe that he had surgery that day. And it was on a Friday. And even Joe was like, who has surgery on a Friday? Even he knows that doctors don't do surgeries on Fridays. So, he just wasn't fooling with him, right? Okay, but let's be honest, Bill. You like hanging out with Joe Gorga. You just can't because of your wife. But you would have preferred to be at Joe's house because you have a ton of fun with Joe. So he had plans on the same night. He was planning on going to Louie's house. Yeah, he's going over there for his guys' night. So it's going to be Bill, Polly, and Nate was invited. And so Jennifer Aiden, of course, she don't like Danielle. So she's calling Nate a BITC beep boy. Really? But what is your husband? Because he's never mind. Moving on. Then Jen tells him that Dolores and Jennifer, Jen Fessler, they're planning a trip for all of them to go on so they can heal. They can heal. So we know Jen Aiden is not feeling Danielle, but she says if Danielle finds her kindness, then she'll move on with her. But she doesn't think Danielle is capable of finding her kindness. And I like that term, finding her kindness. So Dolores calls Jen Fessler because they're planning the retreat. So she finally found a 7-bedroom house in the Berkshires, and this house is perfect for them because there's a guest house that has 2 bedrooms in it, and they figured this will be good. And Teresa and Jen Aiden can stay in the guest house and be away from Margaret and Danielle. Teresa has not confirmed if she's going or coming or not, but Dolores just knows she's coming. Like, she just knows she's going to come. It's pretty much Dolores wants this retreat because she wants everyone to get things off their chest respectfully and, respect the friendship that they once had. Not necessarily get back cool, but just be cordial. So Jen Fess is like, yeah, she says you can't love someone for years, turn it off, and disrespect what you had. And I was like, Jen Fessler, how long have you been on this earth? Yes, ma'am, you can actually. And the way it works is you love one another for years, one disrespects what you had, and then you turn it off. Honey, oh yeah. It can happen. It has happened. And if you live long enough, it's going to happen to you. But if not, perfect. But it's going to happen. People change. So Dolores knows everyone doesn't have to be friends, but be peaceful. And I mean, that is so important, you guys. Like, besties, I just found some of the most peaceful peace that I've never had. And it is wonderful. Find your peace. Ask God for it. If you don't know how to get it, do it. Ask for help because He will help you. So then Dolores discusses the itinerary, and she's going to have these girls busy. They're going to be cooking. She's going to have a fire pit. And she said we either can enjoy the fire pit or they can throw each other in the fire pit. And I'm like, oh, goodness. They're going to do team building exercises like corn maze. They're going to have a picnic at the farm and a trust circle. Baby, okay. So she's going to keep them busy. And then she says, she's not saying they going to gumbaya, right? And so they're not going to gumbaya out of here, And so Jen Fessler was so tickled by the gumbaya, the new kumbaya. And so so they both agreed that this is going to be the last attempt to get these girls together because this friend group is falling apart. And Dolores gets along with everybody, and it can be stressful. It's just stressful because you got to explain why you going to this person's stuff, and it's the middleman is a tough job. So Margaret, my girl Marge, and Jen Fessler, they go to lunch. They're outside this little diner or whatever. She orders an omelet. Sorry, Marge orders an omelet. Jen gets cheeseburgers, fries, and a chocolate milkshake. But the bees won't leave her alone. So Jen Fessler stood up. She about to run up out of there. And so Margaret is teasing her. And so they flash back to where they were in Marge's backyard. And Jen was stung by a bee on her hand. And once again, Margaret is laughing about it. And I mean, guys, have you ever been stung by a bee? Oh, honey, that hurts. Oh, it is the worst pain ever. And I've been actually stung in my eye by a hornet, and it is the worst pain ever. It hurts so much until I found the I'm gonna call it a needle, the stinger, till I found it in my eye. When I pulled it out, I was back to normal. So it hurts. It hurts. And so Joe hasn't had his biopsy yet. They hoping that he goes to the doctor that coming week because the MRIs are giving saying two different things about this cancer. He has it, he don't. He has it, he don't. So Jen tells her everything is gonna be fine because you know what she went through last year with her ex-husband. So she's like, this is not gonna happen to you twice. So Jen Fest tells Marge that Teresa invited her to come over to hear out of the attorney's own mouth about the court findings about Louis's case and what part pertains to Margaret. Baby, why did she tell her that? I know you had to tell her, but honey, Margaret says, she said, oh, Teresa, same attorney that was her attorney when she was in jail. Oh yeah, and he lies. So she gonna say, she tells us his office is near a meth clinic, honey. But her attorney's office is on Madison Avenue. And so she said her attorney would never hold court to discredit anyone. And so she pretty much said he's slimy because look where his office is, by a meth clinic. And so Margaret is disgusted by this. So she's like, you know, who's invited? So it's Dolores, Jackie, Jennifer, Aiden, Danielle. So child, Marge is something else. Honey, she calls Dolores right away and goes off about this mess. And Dolores says she just wanted to hear her out. You know, when you're the middleman, you have to be, you know, court, you got to be neutral. I just want to hear her out. Marge calls Danielle. Danielle says she has no idea what she's going to say. Louis's case is what she wants to tell us about. And so she's like, well, what is there to say? And then Marge says, I got to go. I cannot eat a cold omelet. Bye. And hangs up. I'm like, dang, Marge. She was like, my food here. Got to go buy. So then Jen Fest is like, well, it didn't sound bad at first. But now it does. So she picks up her phone, the ding dong. Like, what did you think? You just, like, what is it about Fessler? She just don't get it. Do she even care to get it? I don't even think so. She only gets it when it's in her face. But when you leave her to think on her own, she's just oblivious, I'm gonna say. So Fessler texts Teresa and says that she's not coming. It doesn't feel right. She can't do this to Margaret. And she says, I hope you understand. And girl, Marge goes off. She doesn't have to understand. And it's like, Margaret, stop, you know, so then Margaret calls Fessler a little PU beep, you know, a little cat, a kitten, you know, like a female part. And it's like, this is the second time you didn't call her that. And it's like, you just can't bully people for the rest of your life, Margaret. You just got to stop bullying people. So child, the bees come back to break up this lunch date. So Jen gets an out. She gets up. She got to go. Bye. She leaves the bully to her omelet. Okay. So then we get over to Joe Gorga's house. And he's at home setting up the house for the party. Everything looks amazing. He has this big old display of raw steaks and bone marrows, and he has one little live lobster. Surprised he didn't call it his brother-in-law. So he has chefs there. They're getting it together. They got the shots outside. He's about to grill all this meat. And then John Fuda comes in with the pajamas. And so he's pretty much teasing Louis when Louis told Joe Gorga that he wears his dad's pajamas at night to make sure the girls, you know, Teresa and her daughters are comfortable and secure and all that. So he come in with his pajamas on, and it was a kick and giggle until it wasn't, right? So now we go over to Louis and Teresa's house, and he's in the kitchen preparing for his guys' night. His dad is there, his son is there. And so Teresa is telling him that Jen Fessler is not coming because of Margaret, and how Louis' case is over now so she can explain what she's been stressing off of, she said, for the last 6 months. And then she corrects herself and say, well, 3 years. Whew, honey, I can't do the drama. Not at this age. I can't do it. So the court ruled in Louis' favor, and she tells her father-in-law that, they got a friend that's been hurting them for about 3 years. And so he has his little 2 cents to say, old people always got a saying. There was a saying when I was growing up that woo, 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 woo. So he dropped his little knowledge, and they all agreed. So Marge calls her husband, and he's at Joe Gorga's house. And so she's telling them about what happened when she went out with Jen Fessler at lunch, because, he has his phone call on speakerphone. She says she has nothing to do with the case, and Teresa and Louis spent $400,000 on this case. And Joe Gorga laughs. $400,000? And John Fuda calls them a train wreck. He's like, they're a train wreck. Just let the truth will come out. People are just over this. So then Frank shows up, and then Jeff Fessler shows up. And they all say Jeff is a good time. So they got more hypey when Jeff showed up. So Joe Gorga has John, Joe, Frank, and Jeff. And Louis over there, he has Paul and Bill, that's it, at his party. And so here's some clarity for you guys, y'all. So Bill, Frank, and Nate were invited to both parties. Bill, Frank, Katana, and Nate were both invited, So let's see. Nate didn't come to either because one of the kids had a tournament. I'm assuming the son. And we know Frank went over to Joe's, and Bill went over to Louis. So Frank tells the guys that he was invited to Louis, and Joe says, do you hang around scumbags? And so Frank is like, oh boy. And it's like, why would you tell him that? Like, not right now, right? So he's like, no. And then he quickly changes the subject and asks about the decor. Who put that there? How did that get there? And all that. So they all laugh because they get it. Moving on, right? So Joe says Louis, Bill, and Polly are a cult. It's a cult, honey. So Louis takes the guys into his studio, child. He tells them, we're going to make some devotionals to our wives because they're getting ready to go on this retreat, and it might be a little tough for them. So we want to say something beautiful to them, and they'll have something to listen to, blah, blah, blah. So Louis wants to go first, and I just was sitting there looking like, this is so cornball. Hi, Teresa. This is your husband, Louis. I love you. Thank you for being a good wife. So he does his. Then production puts the camera on Polly, and Polly is over there looking like, what? Oh my God. So he goes ahead and tell Bill, you go next. Because he don't want to do this. So Bill's was even more cornier than Louis. So he's talking to his wife in a little baby voice, the little love language voice that they have, and hi honey, and so then Polly goes next, and he just pretty much thanks the Lord for having his back, and he has hers, and then he just said lots of love, because he clearly is not the romantic. Okay, his language is probably something else, and it's not words of affirmation. So back at Joe's, he's telling the guys how Louis screwed him in 2 months of meeting him. Then he let that go. And then he said he screwed him again and again and again and again. So John asked why Bill wasn't over at the house. And so I don't even know. Oh, he said, because scumbags like to hang out with scumbags. And it was like, oh boy. And so Joe was like, how are you 49 years old and you're going to court fighting a restraining order at that age. See, talking about that is just so weird. And it is, because who got time for all that? You almost 50, Louis. Drama. So the guys are taking shots in the backyard, and then they go inside. They're going to play poker. And this is when John's throat shuts down. They are like, what are you allergic to? And he doesn't really know. And so two people was like, maybe it was the bone marrow. And so his lips and eyes are swelling up. And so Joe takes him into the bathroom and rubbing ice on his head. And he's like, what is this doing? He said, this hurt. This helps. Trust me. And so then John says his throat hurts. So Joe, Margaret's husband, he just keeps repeating, go to the hospital, go to the hospital. He has antiphylalic. Did I say it right? He has to go. John is like, no. Just give me 20 minutes. Just give me 20 minutes. And so Joe Gorga is like asking, well, what is that? And so he's like, he's not going to be able to breathe. Like, when you are allergic to something, you need a Benadryl or your throat shuts down and you could possibly die because your oxygen gets low. And, you need oxygen. So Joe, Margaret's husband, tells production, call 911. And he was like, I'm dead serious. And so they do. So Melissa must have been upstairs or something. She comes into the bathroom and I have water. And so I'm like, water? What is the water going to do? And I just had to laugh. And I said, Italians want you to get water. Even John mentioned getting some Vicks Vapor Rub because that's what Italians do, right? And I'm thinking, well, us Black folks, we believe ginger ale cures everything. So if I was there, I'd have been like, you got some ginger ale? We need ginger ale. Because we believe it cures everything. Pregnancy, don't want it? Drink some ginger ale. Broke your leg? Drink some ginger ale. You having a problems with your stomach? Drink some ginger ale. Oh, you can't see? Drink some ginger ale. They want to cut your foot off? Drink some ginger ale. Baby, we believe in that. So, child, what was so funny was, Joe is running around, call 911. And so John started blowing his nose. And Joe Gorga, he just whips out his wee-wee and starts to urinate in the bathroom. While all this is going on in front of everybody, they're all like, Frank is laughing. Everybody's like, you really just starting to pee right now? And he was like, yeah. So they got John sitting down in the family room area. So he's like, I want some Vicks Vapor Rub. Because, us Italians, I'm like, no, you need some ginger ale. So Joe, Mark's husband, tells him, don't be an a-hole, sit down and don't move. I cracked up because he got to go in full, like he is not playing with you. When he say, you ain't finna get up out of here on my watch. What I'm gonna tell Rachel? You know what I'm saying? What I'm gonna tell the kids? Your daughter just started talking. Stick around a little longer, buddy. You got 3 kids. So 911 comes. John don't want nothing. They walking with that oxygen tank. He like, what is that? Then the next scene, he got the oxygen hooked up to his nose. Sit down and shut up, like Joe said. So Joe and both Joes tell him to shut up and do everything they say to do. Then John says, this is just too much for me. Okay, say that then. Say that, but you're breathing and your oxygen was getting low. So guess what? You was about to check up out of here. So they hook him up to the oxygen tank. Then the paramedics comes. And oh boy is like, he looked dead at John. He was like, do your lips look like that? He was like, look like what? And when he said that, I had a thought. You know how Wendy Williams always calls Dolores Black Dolores? I don't know if you guys are Wendy Williams fans, but every time Dolores would come on the show, she called her Black Dolores. Now, John, he looks like he could pass for black if he was a little, if he had went and go, if he go get a tan with Dolores, he would probably look black too. Cause he do got the wide mouth, he got a little lip to his lips. He's cute and he got swag. You know what I'm saying? He got some black friends. I'm almost certain, but proud Italian, so not taking that away. But he could be Black John. So the paramedic is like, "Do your lips normally look like that?" So John gonna say, "I don't know. What do they look like?" Boo, they done blew up. That's what they look like. So they gave him some Benadryl. And so Joe is like, "Yeah, let's feed the paramedics." He called them the police, though. "Come on, you guys working hard. Let's feed the police." Child, was the paramedics not sitting at the bar eating some bone marrow, some steak, some lobster, whatever? They were sitting down tearing that food up. And then I was thinking, is that legal? Can they do that? Or is that just whatever? They was like, "It smelled good in here and that meat looked good." And they see them out there grilling outside the backyard. They was not too proud to say, "Oh, I'll stay." So then child Frank pretends to call Paul. And he asks, "How are things over there at Louie's house?" He said, "Oh, we cool. John was almost unalived. Can you top that?" Everybody cracked up. I really enjoy Joe and the guys. I enjoy them more than the women. I do. Like, Melissa can't go nowhere because Joe keeps the party going with the men. And I've always said that a successful Real Housewives series has to have a husband. You got to have husbands. Sorry, y'all, I'm drinking a little red wine, but you got to have husbands that are active and interactive. Honey, Joe, Gordon, they be having a good time. So another day back at Polly's in Dolores, she's telling him about the vacation home. Child, it did caught on fire. It had the vacation home in the Berkshires had an electrical fire, child, and it didn't burn down to the ground. Did y'all laugh? Come on, besties. Did you laugh? It's just like, what? Now, I pray and hope no one was hurt, injured, and the owners have insurance. But that was hilarious. It was like, dang. So Paul says, maybe it's a sign, an omen. And so, or when Teresa says an omen. Teresa, what is it called? An omen? It was an omen. She tells him about Margaret and Jen's lunch, and Mark called her screaming, and "I can't believe you're doing this." And so Dolores is like, "I want to go over to Teresa's house. Like, I don't want to go because there's nothing new to learn. Like, what she's going to say ain't going to move no mountains with me." And so, oh, child, I was like, boy, I'm still rolling at the house burning down. How likely was that to happen? So Polly tells her about guys' night. And Bill was there, and they did this devotional for their wives, and he said, and girlfriends. And so she asked, "So what does that mean?" And he was like, "We said things that we normally don't say or get to say." So she was like, "Where's the video? What did you say?" And he was like, "I don't know where the video is yet." She said, "But find it." And so, he don't say nothing. So she says, "Does love soften you?" And he said, "You tell me." And she said, "There's a calm when you're in love." She said, "Because there was a time when I would have got a call like the one Margaret called when Margaret called her fussing." She said there was a time where she would have been at her doorstep in 2 seconds. So I was like, I heard that, Dolores. Because who is you talking to calling me with all this smack? Baby, you calling my phone. You better have some respect for me. I can go where I want to go. You can't really call me because I'm both of y'all's friends. Okay? and I'm going. I ain't like old Fessler over there to go text her, oh, I'm not coming. Child, please. Margaret, stop. You can't bully everybody. Bully your husband. So at Teresa's, this is the day. This is the day. So Danielle arrives first, then Jackie and Dolores. Jennifer Aiden comes and Danielle's energy shifts. And you know what it's like, besties. We're at that age. We done been through some stuff. So you know how it is with somebody you done fell out with or don't like, how they walk into the room and you just heart drops to the floor. You just gotta you gotta So she did her and so Teresa thanked both of them for coming because she knows, that they don't get along. So Jennifer Aiden was like, we're adults. We're here for you. Let's move on. So, and Gia is at the table too. And Gia has been a housewife all her life. And I know a few people don't like Gia being there because she's a kid. Well, she's 22. And, you got to just remember, give people grace because Teresa was in jail. Who do you think was raising her three sisters and helping out her father? Gia has been a leader of the pack all her life. She's smart. She knows what she's saying. She's her mama's twin, but I'm not mad at her sitting at the table. So the attorney, James Leonard, is really pretty much talking in circles. And what I just can't appreciate is that, he can't say names. So the ex doesn't get a name. We don't get a beep, a blur. He can't say her name. So when you're trying to tell us a story and you can't say their name, it's just like, so what? So anyway, in 2021, they got information that the ex was talking to Margaret. Where did that come from? You know what I'm saying? Like, I have questions. Where did you get the information from? Okay. So Louis' attorney subpoenaed Margaret to come to court to answer some questions. And just to ask her, was she communicating with Louis' ex? So Margaret did get the subpoena because, they send that stuff where you got to sign it and, certified maybe. And so Margaret didn't come to court. And the ex said Margaret was planning to expose Louis and Teresa based on the information that the ex gave her. So Louis and his ex, they can't even speak about each other. That's in the court ruling. So she gets out her information. She gets her information out through Margaret, and she's trying to hurt them with it. So Dolores says this ain't nothing new. They flash back to like 3 years ago with Margaret and Teresa going back and forth about Louis being abusive and Margaret talking to the people from the past. And Margaret always denies it. And she was like, what would she want to talk to me for? But no one knows if this is true because in Teresa's eyes, she says, oh, Margaret, you know everybody. And so Dolores says she will figure this all out. So Teresa, she has a confessional. And so she says that she, after she met Louis, some videos came out of him and his ex. It surfaced on Instagram. And now they putting everything together, which is, they think Margaret did it. Now back to Miss Dolores saying she gonna figure all this stuff out. My question to Dolores is, are you going to figure this out by next week? Because next week is the season finale. We don't get a reunion with you guys because y'all can't get along. So we're going to need you to go dig up this week and have it ready for the next show. Thank you, please, and thank you. Okay. So Teresa tells Jackie that she should know this because they were close back then. Jackie said, Margaret never said anything. So Jennifer Aiden said Margaret didn't like it when she kept talking to Laura. And so she stopped talking to Laura because it was just not cool. And we all know that Laura is Margaret's ex-best friend. So Margaret calls, and so Jen is like, Margaret calls me a hypocrite, but she's the one that's a hypocrite. So Danielle is just sitting there connecting all the dots because, she wasn't there 3 years ago. So she's just trying to connect all this. And so my question to the besties, Do y'all think Margaret did this? Do you think it's true that Margaret is the starter of all this drama? What you guys think? Can you put your answers in the comment? I'm just trying to figure all this out. And have you liked the video yet? Did you subscribe? Are you sharing the video? It would help the channel grow. We are a new community on YouTube. Please, thank you. And so Danielle's connecting the dots. So Teresa and Jen, they became friends to dig crap up on people. Laura is Margaret's ex-best friend. People think Bo Diddley did a smear campaign against Frank, Joe Gorga, and Margaret. And so Danielle was like, how is this different than what Margaret did? And it's like, it ain't no difference. And then the doorbell rings, honey. And so Gia's looking on the camera like, who is that? What is that? Is that some flowers? They look like a flower for a funeral. And somebody's like, well, who died? And they're like, nobody. Child, ain't nobody died. So Teresa goes to the front door. Baby, it is a full-fledged flower spray being delivered, like for a funeral. So the guy is like, you got a delivery. And she reads the card. It's from Margaret. And it says to Teresa and James, the attorney, sorry for your loss of dignity. Love, 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 Marge. Child. You can't make this up. You cannot make this up. So Teresa refuses it. Tell her to stick it up her a beep. And she said, get this off my property. And the delivery guy, he was an older guy. He said, all right. And production shows him walking back to his delivery truck, child. So Danielle is in her confessionals and she is like, oh my God, this is the most gangster crap ever. Brilliant. I have never seen something so great. I was like, yes, you have. That was stupid and petty and a waste of money, but we get it. Okay, that was okay. And so Danielle says, how are we all going to go on this trip together? So Dolores says, well, we're not. Teresa says, oh my God. And Jen said, so she says that the house caught on fire. So Teresa says, oh my God. And Jennifer Aiden is like, you're lying. What do you mean? To a crisp? Dolores said, to the studs. And so this is when Teresa said, oh, that's it on. And Danielle corrects her, almond, and almond. Child, am I? Yeah, I am. So Dolores wants them all to sit in a calm place still. She still wants this to happen. So it's going to happen next week. She wants them all to sit in a calm place and talk, just to be at peace with themselves. And I was like, okay, Dolores. She has had it with this friend group. Okay, that was the end of the episode. So we got to wait till next week. And next week is the season finale, besties. Please like this video. Make sure you're subscribed so you will be informed of the next video. Put your comments on how you enjoyed the episode. If you didn't enjoy the episode, we didn't even grade it. Give me your grade. I'm going to grade this. I enjoyed it. It had all the parts to it. I'm going to give it an A. It was good. I'm going to give it an A. I like that the baby, her surgery was successful and she's talking and walking. I like that. So that kind of put it up there. But I like Joe having fun and all the little stuff that was said, like with Frank calling Polly and the pajamas. And so I'm going to give it an A. You tell me what you rate this episode. And I will see you on the next video. Bye, besties.